Yeah, well, a modern jumbo jet is really a flying communication station. That's why it's so astonishing to think that this plane took off in some 40, 45 minutes after taking off, that it went utterly silent. That one system might fail is one thing, that all of them would fail is different. So let's talk about these communication systems on board a jet like this. And I want to start with the cockpit because that's where you have the most basic communication system on a plane like this, the radio. It's used by pilots all the time. They used it on this flight, apparently without incident, until shortly before they disappeared. Even if they were to have a catastrophic fire or a giant loss of pressurization, the masks they would put on in the cockpit have microphones in them that they can easily key to send out a distress signal, and yet nothing came out of the radio system from this plane after it disappeared. On the underside of the cockpit is where you would find the transponders we've been talking about so much. The transponders work with ground radar in the sense that a radar system pings this plane from the ground and says, I see a plane there. The transponders, in a sense, are electronically answering and saying, yes, we are this Malaysian air flight, and this is where we're located, and this is where we're going. The transponders were turned off of this plane. That's not a hard thing to do, according to pilots. It's right next to them. They can turn it off quite easily, but there's no good reason why it would have been turned off, especially at the very moment that the plane disappeared. Let's spin this around and talk about another part of this. We hear a lot of talk about the flight data recorders. That's them in the back there, the tail end of the plane. There's a voice recorder and there is a data recorder. They have an enormous amount of information about everything that is happening to this plane, about the angle of the plane, where all the flaps are. Every system on board is being recorded there. Tremendous amount of information and voices from the cockpit so you can hear what's going on there. The problem is these do not transmit. They carry that information. They can be collected later to review an incident, but they don't send out any information. Which brings us to one of the last systems we have to talk about, because this is the really important one right now, Wolf, and that is the ACARS system. The ACARS system is a system that transmits information in an ongoing way about some of the systems on the plane. When we've talked all day about the idea that the engines were transmitting information about their fuel usage, their performance, aviation analysts have suggested that would have been through the ACARS system. Up until now, we'd largely been told there was no information coming out of the plane, but now it seems there might have been, and if so, it was somehow coming out of the ACARS system or some parallel system. But if that proves to not be the case, Wolf, if this turns out to be another false lead, it will be another instance where this plane went utterly silent despite all these different ways in which it could communicate with the ground. It just didn't.